much. It's a little better. Maybe. Still looking a little weird to me. Oh, well, that's close enough. That's what I was wondering. Is I thought it used to be on the other side. Hey, Brian. I thought I used to sit on this side of the whiteboard.
Yeah. No clue, dude.
See, if I'm looking this way, that would be to the left of the whiteboard. Maybe to the right of it. That would be to the right of it. Yeah. Hey, David. How's it going? Oh, dearie. Let's see. Yeah. There we go, I guess. A little light. Hello, Lance. I don't recall seeing you before. Have you been here before? Va bien, huh? Okay. Hello, Timothy. Yeah, Tucson Mountain, park is interesting there. Are you talking a mountain right now? Well, Lance, we really like to have questions. It helps drive the conversation. Most of us have been here a while and we've kind of talked out a lot of stuff. So it's nice when somebody has some questions and kind of fires up the conversation a bit. So don't be shy if you got questions. Let's see. Right now it's 29 degrees Fahrenheit here in cloudy Helena, Montana. Well, if the psychic won the lottery, he would know what would happen if he told anybody. See, Jean-Francois? Besides, can you imagine how much trouble you'd have if people knew you were psychic? Do you like how our settlement pond works? Well, I actually use the pad as a filter more than the pond itself. And the pad as filter seems to do pretty well. The stuff coming out from the drainage pipes is pretty clear. I do not have to use flocculant, Brian. There's times I've actually got sediment in there, kind of messed up, and I've actually pumped it back up onto the pad and let it filter again. Hey, Mr. Lodak. Well, good, Lance. I'm glad to help. We have a community. Hey, Lars, here that by and large likes to help out. So, as if you run into anything, don't be afraid to ask. Right now, I'm not making a lot of videos simply because water is a solid right now. which kind of makes things difficult. And the roads up in the mountains are anywhere from difficult to closed. One thing they do here is during the wintertime, they close the roads with the specific intent of two things. Number one, minimizing disturbance for things like elk, but also to minimize damage to the roads. When you have melting snow and stuff, you tend to get a lot of mud. And then with vehicles driving over that, they just tear the heck out of the roads. And so for a couple of reasons, right now we're in our winter high country shutdown thing where most of the high country around here is you're not allowed to drive off road, on the Jeep trails until it's mid-March right now. So that's really limits what we can do here. Well, that's not good, Brian. Yeah, you really
can't even go on them till mid-May.
You really have to. Did I say April?
You said March.
March? I meant May, mid-May. I'm getting old. I went out to the mill about a week ago and checked it to see how things were looking and if necessary, drain some precipitation off of the precipitation covers on the pad and the pond. But evaporation and sublimation, there really wasn't much there to get rid of except a little ice on top of the pad. And of course, I can't do much about that. So I just left it like that. Yeah, I was afraid of that, Lars.
Is Lars flooded again?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, you know where he's at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any damage, Lars, or you think it's just an annoyance again? And did you get any equipment that might get harmed to the high water line? Yeah, you've just got a weird situation there. Well, yeah, but you've been living with that for years, Lars. That's nothing new. Start dredging. That's good. As long as you just drain it and get back to work, that's not too bad. I think that door you put up ought to really help on the lower adit there. This week, tomorrow, Eva and I are going to take off to Great Falls with the truck and the van, and we're going to drop the truck off at Swain Spring in order to get those springs re-arched and rebushed. And let's see, it says here on Tuesday, below freezing until about noon. Slight chance of rain in the afternoon. Little bit of chance of snow 4 a.m. Those should be perfectly adequate conditions to go. Wednesday, on the other hand, it's like precipitation all day long. Unless there's a reason we can't just leave it there, we may just want to go back on Thursday to pick it up, little one.
Yeah, I'd say that's a possibility.
Say Wednesday looks like an ugly day.
I kind of had my doubts about the whole Wednesday thing.
Yep. So that's our big thing for the week. Yeah.
In between me making zillions of dollars.
Sure. But anyhow.
Go ahead and laugh. I get paid to watch TikTok, dude.
I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen Chris today yet. He thought he would be able to get on using some kind of what do you call it? Smartphone, like 5G or something, and using his smartphone as a hotspot or whatever. But I don't see him. Then on the other hand, who knows? He may be taking a nap. But he got through the surgery okay. Went home the next day. Sounded real good and real strong. So, as far as I know, everything's going fine with him. Lauren, on the other hand, kind of came down with the upper respiratory unhappies yesterday, and so he was feeling fairly peakedy today. And so I'm really not sure how he's doing. I hate to call just to ask how you're doing, wake you up. How you doing? I was sleeping. So I know he's in good hands. So I don't have to worry about that. And so I say we shall see what we shall see on that. But Lauren's pretty tough geezer. He should be up on his feet in no time, and then we can get back to working on his that Dodge. I don't know what year it is. It's a 1-ton with the Cummins diesel, and we got the air conditioner is pieces right now. I think, he put the compressor in, but I don't think we've hooked up any of the hoses yet. I think he put in the dryer. I don't know. He may not have even. I don't know. I don't think he's put in the dryer last I checked. So we got all that to button up and deal with. And the front suspension ball joints and this and that and the other. Got a lot of work to do on that truck. Lauren doesn't like to half-ass things, so he's going to be fixing all kinds of stuff on that truck until he runs out of time. But that's what I've been doing in the morning. A little bit of other stuff in the afternoon. I was trimming some trees the other day, and it was a fairly simple job, but I had to go up on a roof and everything, so I was roped off. And I had Eva just sitting in the van just as a safety person to render aid or get help if I screwed up. Hey, Red Wing. But, the safety line was never required for anything. It was just there safety. I don't like getting up on roofs when you've maybe got frost, but I waited till afternoon. Hey, Rock. I'm doing fine. Eva's doing fine. Chris said he was probably going to be here, but I haven't seen him. And Lauren's a bit under the weather. So that's the how's everyone doing thing. And that's about it. Done a little bit of plumbing and this and that and the other. Practicing with snap caps with the new pistol there so that I can, it's a 1911, so it's got a totally different functioning system than my 44 Magnum. And so I need to practice to make sure I do everything well. What's the name of this? It's a GF. Oh my goodness. Pretty sure it's Chinese. Gun and flower. That has to be Chinese. Anyhow, this was like $16 or something. And I thought, well, it's it's cheap. but I'm very pleased with how well it works. Very smooth.
You better not put the GUN in the camera.
Yeah, I'm not. And the little retention tab here is easy to depress. I was quite pleased. And Eva's having fun telling me what to do. Front door, back door. The misfire issue straightened out on the 44 mag. It's cleaned and everything, and I don't think I've had too much chance to run any ammo through it. It fired the few times I tried. Yeah. What is the problem? Flocculants have worked well for me in the past, Jean-Francois. I haven't used anything that is highly specific for mining opera. I just used the pool flocculant that you buy at Home Depot. And yeah, it made a big difference when I'd be processing crushed ore and things would get pretty dirty. I just pour a little in there, and in 5 minutes it had cleaned up quite a bit. Not perfectly clean, but you know, now you can see maybe a half an inch or an inch into the surface instead of zero. You know, can I name a general purpose flocculant? Nothing specific. I'd say it was like pool clear or something like that. Say I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it was like pool clear or pond clear or something.
Yeah, I mean it's designed for swimming pools to aid the filtration system, and it seemed to work pretty well. I had a probably 30-40 gallon system. I was recirculating it and running over 100 pounds an hour over the table, and a little bit every half an hour to an hour was all I'd have to do. And yeah, it's colored blue because of course it's for people who are putting it in their pool, so they like to make it look pretty and such, but that was it. Let's see, let me just take a quick look and see. Home Depot. Come on, let's see. I wonder if they even know what a flocculant is in their search thing here. Just out of
probably not.
I'm thinking not.
You should try anyway.
Yeah, there it is. Pool Time Super Water Clarifier. And there's HTH Dropout Flocculant. The Super Water Clarifier is $15. And a bottle that size, which is about a quart bottle, and lasts me well over a ton of material. Probably 2 to 5 tons. Depends on how much clay you had in it. But it seemed to work pretty well. Yeah, Jean-Francois, I just had a tub, and here's another thing that might come in handy, Jean-Francois. Okay, and everyone else out there, this is a freebie. My table, my shaker table. Of course, with a shaker table, you need to have a pretty good foundation. It's got to be anchored pretty good, or else you get all kinds of weird motions and stuff. So what I did was if here's my table frame. All I did was built a big tub here. And actually, I built the tub so it actually slides inside the frame and holds it down. And that way I've got hundreds of pounds of water holding that thing to the ground. But when I want to move it, I just drain the water. Hi, Paw Patriot. And so if you got some kind of machinery that you need to anchor down, I say a shaker table is kind of the ideal sort of thing. You need something that's pretty good, but on the other hand, you want it mobile. You don't want to have to cast a foundation to bolt it to. That worked out really well. Okay. And so that, hey, Ken. So that is a good way to anchor a small shaker table or something like that and still make it very, very mobile, Do they have anything special to say, Jean-Francois? I haven't seen that occur, Jean-Francois. I would suggest, like everything else, testing. If you're not a real expert, you're not a flocculent expert and a microfine gold expert, just try it. See what happens. I think it's a fairly different chemistry between wetting and flocculant. The flocculant sticks particles together, kind of charges them so they stick together, whereas the wetting breaks the surface tension. I think they're kind of two separate phenomenon. And you would, David. And so you can use them in conjunction. I would also add some Dawn dishwashing detergent to kind of break the surface tension. So I'd say those are kind of the things that I would do and seem to work pretty well. I was getting good recoveries down to 500 mesh without a problem. And say I had to have very solid foundations for that table because it was smacking the stop. And I found that provided plenty of weight. And I had the whole frame just supported on 3 points. It was kind of going away from me. There was 2 points over there and 1 point here. So I could just, turn some bolts and adjust the level of everything. Hey, Jim, how are you doing? Lauren said you were looking a little less than ideal the other day. Now he's feeling rather poorly. So how are you doing? That's good, Jim. I talked to Lauren this morning. He was sounding a little peakedy. But yeah, that worked fine for me. The whole bolt the damn thing to the ground is really inconvenient at times. But just 30, 40 gallons of water does a fantastic job. Oh. see, anything else? Well, that was Eva's stuff there. You know.
Did you?
Thank you, Brian. What little one?
Oh, now I can't. Did you remember to write duffelblog.com on your board there?
Duffel blog? No. I don't recall hearing you needed me to write it.
Well, did you also write that
Yeah, what is going on with
the shipping thing? Yeah.
Duffel blog?
Yeah.
Duffelblog, one word?
Yes. For anyone looking for satire specifically related to military and other stupid bullshit, that is an amazing site. Today's thing was Department of Defense, quote, "We are not smart enough to run a Taylor Swift psyop." It is an excellent site.
Clay cutter, huh? How much do they cost, Jim? Any idea? Absolutely, Jean-Francois. Definitely want to recirculate. Oh. Goodness. Is clay cutter just a flocculant, or is it also a wetting agent? I wouldn't have the faintest idea, honey bunny. On the other hand, there may be something else. Again, all depends on what they're doing nearby. But say over here, bit of a wetting and mainly used in oil drilling. Okay. I never heard of it, never tried it. No, I presume that's $50 a bag. Yep. I don't think it would do that, Red Wing. It doesn't stick stuff together in a, like glue. It just gets them, the small particles, to attract each other enough that they kind of clump. Interesting, Jim. 7 pounds treats 42,000 gallons. Well, that's pretty efficient. Goodness gracious, mio mio.
Oh, that sounds useful.
It's on Amazon, huh?
Everything's on Amazon.
Yeah, let us know how things work out, Red Wing. Yeah, that's what we like to do, is use everyone to try anything that sounds good, and then whoever's in a position to give it a shot, give us some feedback. Save everyone else some. And going at this. By the way, Constantine sent me a recipe the other day that I'm sure that Lauren would like. It was for shawarma or something. Boy, that Caucasus shawarma looks like pretty spicy stuff. It's hard to see the chicken underneath the hot red pepper.
Shawarma can be very spicy, depending on where you
What he was making was pretty spicy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Not all of it is, but quite a lot of it is.
Yeah. Well, he specifically said that, the other spices, are adequate if you don't like it spicy. But if you like it spicy like he does, Then you lay this other stuff on. Do you use that around here, Jim? And if so, what does the Department of Environmental Quality think of it? They have any opinion on it one way or another, or is it just go ahead, or what's up with that? Any idea? I don't think Lars has a problem with water right now. Well, inadequate water. Okay, Jim. If you can put it down a drill hole, it's environmentally benign. Okay. That would make sense, Rock, but if you're drilling petroleum wells, the petroleum itself is not environmentally benign in the usual way. But by the time you get where you're going to be hitting that, you'd be cased into the bedrock anyhow, correct? How's the weather where you're at, Rock? Jean-Francois says it's fairly mild over there. So it's more of a clay buster then, huh, Honey Bunny? Yeah, right now it's, according to my computer, it's right at freezing, cloudy. Not much wind today. We're going to head up to Great Falls tomorrow. The road should be good. What general area are you at, Lance? And how much experience do you have hard rock mining? Is the aluminum oxide? Yeah, it is. Bauxite's a kind of clay. Yeah, I know bauxite is considered a clay. So, yeah, that's the sort of thing that Rock is an expert on, but not me. I'm a miner, not a geologist. Luckily, we got a real geochemist around. Oh, by the way, Rock, did you see that vacuum pump on that last video? That was a gift from the laboratory.
Yeah. I mean, it for free. They were actually going to throw it away.
Eva was so excited when we went in there to see if he'd gotten the analyses done yet, because he'd had that vacuum pump, blow up on him, and it was a requirement, for the machine. And so when we were in there checking, he says, "Yep, here's the old one and everything." And Eva's like going, "Wow, that looks so cool." And it does look cool. It has NASA written all over it, sort of thing. And he goes, "You want it?" And she's like, "Really? Mine." Oh, she gets so excited about some stuff. It just brings a smile to my face. So, yeah, well, not in its current condition. Right now, the rotor won't even turn. But I don't know. I don't know what all is dead on that thing, whether it's bearings, the motor, or just the impeller. Clearly, the impeller has seen better days. That thing's pretty well trashed, but I'm not sure, what else. And I imagine that has to be very precisely balanced. Now, Chris said he should be able to fix it. The guy at the lab was saying that nobody apparently repairs these things. And that's a $15,000 pump. So if Chris could fix it, then, that ought to be worth something.
Then Chris has a new career field.
Your spot is in Colorado. Well, Lance, if you are not familiar with hard rock, then you should probably go back to some of my earliest videos, like how to take representative samples and stuff, and then look at maybe the earlier ones on going to look at Montana B, where we were sampling and testing. I presume you're looking at gold or silver, Lance? Okay. Yeah. It's one of those things that it's so very much, geology dependent that you pretty much just got to start from scratch, take your samples, and figure out what's going on. If you can hand pan the microfine gold to a reasonable extent, then it can be a very helpful grade control tool. It may not give you an accurate measurement, but it'll give you a ballpark estimate. And sometimes that makes things a whole lot more efficient. If you don't have a big giant budget, then running samples through a lab can get extraordinarily expensive. And even if you do have a big giant budget, unless you own your own lab, it's going to take you a lot of time. Imagine how much fun it would be trying to drive down a road where you get an update on your position every month. You're not going to go very fast. So that's one of the things that you should try with your ore. And in order to get good samples and do much, you're probably going to have to get a small crusher of some sort. Again, depending on the budget and the circumstances, the top of the line would be something like a Keen RC46, but that's, $10,000, $11,000. But it's a nice machine to crush up samples. On the other hand, if you're doing a little bit of small sampling, you got a tight budget, you can use a hammer and a steel plate to bust things down to like 1/2 inch or whatever, and then use a small impact mill. And you can either make one or, you can buy one, I think, for about $1,500. Those little small impact mills. They're a bit of a pain because they got a bearing on the faceplate there. And so when you pull the faceplate off to clean it out, it's going to take some time. For real small samples, you can get by with something like a Cobra crusher. One of these things that fits on the end of a grinder. But you need to thoroughly crush the rock to do any kind of experimenting on it. And trust me, few things are more time-consuming and annoying than finally crushing rock with hand tools. Yeah, that's not a happy joy thing. But
oh, come on, dude.
Say that's very handy to have to do stuff. Sometimes you can just take your samples and screen a portion of it out to do a hand pan or something like that, but then you have to reintegrate it back into the sample to keep your everything legit, so to speak. And another thing that you'll need to do is figure out how you're going to split your samples so that um, um, allows you to take reasonably good sized samples and then turn it down into something that you can deal with better. I say there's one of the big problems with hard rock is you pretty much got to be able to crush some rock. Not necessarily huge quantities, but reasonable quantities and reasonably easily, or you're just not going to do what you need to do to get good sampling. Little one, could you take over for a minute? I need to take a short break.
Well, I suppose. I'm watching a crochet tutorial. It's bothering me when I'm trying to learn crochet.
Sounds like a jaw crusher to me, honey bunny.
Hi, everybody. Hey. Whew. Yeah, I have been watching crochet videos. Actually, I know how to crochet. That's not a problem. I'm just looking to see all this new shit. Because apparently, while I was not looking, the world of crochet has exploded with all kinds of new shit, like these amigurumi little itty bitty stuffed things. They're kind of neat. David, I'm liking the weather actually because I'm inside and it's nice and warm, you know? And hi, Brian. Hi, honey bunny. Yeah, I'm looking at these and I'm like, huh, you know? People are making all kinds of cool little stuffed animals with crochet. I think I'm missing out on something here. Not going to get around to it anytime soon, but oh well. Honey bunny, crochet is not that hard. Come on now. And hi, Joe Biden. Been sniffing any hair lately? No, basically, things are going very well here. You know, we had this little snow thing happening in yesterday, and we're going to Great Falls tomorrow, which means I get Five Guys, which is cool with me, which is, you know, we don't get Five Guys here. No Five Guys in Helena. Bummer. Kind of the way it is. But we're going up there tomorrow and going to do a little nosing around, looking around a little bit, enjoy ourselves, and then go back and pick up Bugs when Bugs is done. We have been going to the gym, which of course absolutely sucks rocks, but you got to do something to stay in shape. Yes, Jean Francois, I am related to the tinfoil hat goddess. Seriously though, comment allez-vous aujourd'hui? I don't speak much French at all, thank God. But yeah, basically, absolutely nothing of interest is going on around here. I have been working on my reward programs very diligently. So I'm getting all kinds of reward cards, which is really cool. And that's about it. Hmm. Ah, see now, Jean Francois is now speaking French to me, Bear.
Ooh.
He is parlaying français like Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
We all know about these French dudes.
I can hablo de español.
Oh, now Joe Biden is speaking Spanish to me. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, here he is again. I don't think I'm a muchacho, but
Nope, you're not a muchacho.
I'm not a machacho either.
Nope, not that I'm aware of.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, Alex, they do that. You know, the old timers, they did a lot of fire assay on the spot. Any good sized mine, you usually find a bunch of old broken crucibles. uh,
Huh.
but you know, oh, the old timers did it all the time, Jean Francois. When they had a mine, they'd set up their own little assay lab. Yeah, well, sucks to be you, Jean Francois.
Hey.
No, he's saying, what kind of lab is this? I got 950 square kilometers. Oh, they probably just crushed it, Alex. Yeah, you can do fire assay depending on the grade of the material. You know what you need to do if you're looking for things tenth of an ounce or better. Then a wet chemical assay should be something you can do without the fancy equipment. You can go with a calorimetric or something. I got to remember to test. Let me write that down. Test EGX with KD3 spot test. I need to check that out. I think that's how you do it, Jean Francois. Yeah, pretty much, Alex. Um, I mean, it's nice to have extra decimal points, but in many cases, it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. You know, it's almost a binary decision: or waste, or waste. That's all. You know, and sometimes Prodor or something like that. Hey, Shaggy. So they could deal with it. I mean, a lot of times it was just hand panning. They'd use the little cow horn things and stuff like that. And I say, in many cases, that was more than adequate to do what they needed, because they needed a high enough grade that it didn't matter. Does it matter if you got 5/100ths of an ounce per ton, or a, a tenth of an ounce per ton, if you need at least a half an ounce to the ton to break even? Not really. It's waste. Done. you know. I am Shaggy. Lars, not so much. So, I say it's one of those things that, Jean Francois, for what you're doing, it sounds like you're going to be in such a high grade environment. In other words, you're going to need like a quarter of an ounce to the ton or something, that you may very well, with a little experience, be able to do what you need to do with just a pan. At least around here, Jim. Yeah. Can't imagine what they were, when they first started here. They actually shipped stuff all the way to Cornwall, England for processing. Holy crap. And we just had a little snow. When was it? Yesterday, I guess. Yeah. 3 inches, maybe, somewhere around there. Not that much, but it was warm enough that it tended to stick to everything. That's a pain in the butt. You know, if you're going to get snow, I'd rather get it at like 20 degrees or less, because then it's just light sand. It's not that abrasive. So I say it's entirely possible, Jean-Francois, that all you'll really need is a pan. It would be nice to get better numbers. Absolutely. But on the other hand, depending upon how you are going to recover the gold, that may give you 100% recovery. You know? Well, that's a lot of money, Jean-Francois. But if you got the rock, that's not very big. Absolutely. It's perfectly doable if you got the orbit. Like everything else, it's all situation dependent. The rock, the surroundings, the environmental regulations. Sounds like a basically good plan to me, Jean-Francois, especially in a rather unpredictable overall environment right now. You know, the way things are going, all sorts of things could just change dramatically in short periods of times. So I would agree with that basic concept. Try and stay out of debt. Keep the control. You know, don't dilute control in order to get cash if you can avoid it. It's a misspelling, Joe. Yeah. Practice with him, Jean-Francois. Just see which one works. Get actual gold that you can see. Put it in a plastic capsule or something, and that way you can calibrate. You can try different things, etc. Of course they are, Jean-Francois. They do high risk things. They need to have high return, and so they're going to be pretty cutthroat. A lot of them are also terribly unscrupulous too. You know? So I would definitely prefer not to dilute ownership, not to give anyone any more control than you absolutely had to. You know? So that would be just a general principle. But yeah, start small. Start on the surface, artisanal level, and bootstrap it from there. I don't see a problem with that. Say, if he's been successful for that long, just pay attention. It would all depend on the grade, Alex. If all you're going for the free mill, in Montana B, you're going to miss 80% of the gold. And so you got to look at the situation. You just have to look at the situation. Jeff seems like an okay guy, but I don't think he's a miner. I mean, someone who's had a lot of experience mining and milling. You know? Chemistry scares you.
Jeff who?
Williams.
Yeah.
Do you fill your gas tank, Alex? It's chemistry. Do you use drain cleaner? Chemistry. Do you use detergent? Chemistry.
Do you eat food?
You know,
Food is chemical too.
So
Just saying.
you have to respect it. But certain things are relatively simple, straightforward, and safe. Other things are relatively simple and straightforward and easy to keep safe. Like gasoline, 3 cups of gasoline has the same, 1 cup of gasoline when vaporized and mixed with air has the same energy as 3 sticks of dynamite. You know? That might work. I need to do some testing on the Eco Goldex and the KD3 to see if I've got something. I mean, we certainly have a methodology that will work on leach solutions at reasonable concentrations. I mean, let me get that spot plate for those of you who don't know. Oh man, let's see. See, these results are less than an ounce to the ton. Well, less than an ounce to the ton. I mean, we can get down to 5 or 6 parts per million. You could certainly do the KD3 and a spot test like this after leaching it after your. I do not know, Jean-Francois. I have some. According to Tricky Dicky, you can use hydrazine sulfate directly. And I think he put some crystals in it, but I'm not sure.
We tried and it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, I would double check that, Jean-Francois. It seems to me that the capabilities of XRF are not really ideal for field gold mining. Which particular setup are you talking about, Alex? Let me see. That's another one. I can ask Tricky exactly what. I think he sent me an email on that one, but I'll have to look it up. And I'll have to check that out. Okay, the leach pad. I don't think there was one particular thing there. That could be another one, just a complete pad leach system. See, part of the problem of being me is that as I'm doing stuff and explaining it, it makes perfect sense to me, etc. But when someone comes in a year or so later and starts trying to figure it all out, it comes out as being very disjointed. And so that is a communications problem. I'll see if I can do something like that. Yeah. That makes sense to me, Jean-Francois and Rock. I would agree. If you've got concentrates there where you get a much higher percentage and a much higher mass of gold, then an XRF would probably be useful. And yeah, Jean-Francois, they ain't cheap. That's what I say. That's why a pan for $6, if that gives you good enough results, it's hard to argue with it. So I say, comes to XRF, I don't know. If you're talking coarser gold, taking a large sample and concentrating it, I think Tricky Dicky knows what's in it. I just bought, so I've got enough KD3 to last me for years. But I'll see about checking. I got a note here. And see about his, because I think he just dropped a couple of crystals of hydrazine sulfate in the well of the spot plate.
That's what he told me to try, and I did, and it didn't work for ours.
Okay, it didn't work for ours? Okay.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's in it. You can also use stannous chloride as a precipitant, but it doesn't work as well as the KD3. So you can go with the stannous chloride precipitation. You're just going to have to calibrate it different. Disgruntled jeweler selling them on eBay, huh? Yep, I can understand that because, hey, Rock, in your experience, there's a big difference between sales and tech support, on all this stuff. But how many times do you think sales is just ignorant, and how many times they're deliberately overselling the product? Okay. I'm looking more of the for a spot test, Jean-Francois, not as in a production thing, but just to give you an ability to test a sample so that you would have the equivalent of an assay. In a production setting, you're probably going to be looking at zinc precipitation or resin extraction, possibly carbon extraction too. I don't know. I'm guessing, the resin probably has higher loading factors and specificity, but yeah. Okay, Rock. I was wondering because that guy from Bruker that came by to demo the XRF that I saw, he didn't seem to have any idea that the device had the potential for an interference from a fairly common, element like molybdenum or something that comes up showing as platinum. But the fact that I had 5 samples, none of which were known to have any platinum group at all, and they all showed 1 ounce to the ton platinum. I'm like, it's worth running a fire assay for platinum, which came out to be nothing. But then somebody else said that, oh yeah, that's a common interference. So I don't know. Okay, Jean-Francois. No no opinion over here. I've had no experience with them. But yeah, I'll see what I can do on that. I thought we did. You tried putting a couple of crystals of hydrazine sulfate in there.
We
Huh?
did.
I know we played some game like
after
that.
Tricky told us about that, I tried it.
Yeah.
We have hydrazine sulfate. I have found no use for hydrazine sulfate.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is not a Tricky issue. This is a hydrazine an ore issue.
Could be.
Let's face it. Everybody's ore is different.
Okay, Rock. I figured it was something like that. So, I say, in your case, Jean-Francois, I'd start with the pan because it may turn out as like, hey, this works just fine and is real fast.
Okay, so this is all sorted.
Yeah, Alex, I say, and that's one of the problems with an XRF. It's awfully hard in some cases to differentiate things properly. So it can really lead you down the a rabbit hole that you don't want to go down. Yeah, and that may be all you really need, Jean-Francois. That and a crusher. You got a good pulverizer, because that's the other thing you're going to need to do the hand panning. First, you got to pulverize the sample. But that's proven amazingly useful in my experience for us. Now, if you were a big mining company and you were taking drill samples and your ore grade cutoff is 1/100th of an ounce per ton, nope, not good enough. Ooh, a cool card with your pick and everything, huh? Well, you know a lot more than I do, Jean-Francois, when it comes to to that sort of thing. I say I'm just a miner. You know, I know a little bit of chemistry and even less physics and basic electrical, not electronics, just electrical. And from there, but jack of all trades, master of none sort of thing. Well, define visible gold in this context, Jean-Francois, because I mean I can recover down to 500 mesh. Oh, you should also have your little handy pen microscope too. That's going to be real important. Yeah, I understand. I don't think the XRF is necessarily going to do very well on that. If you have a grade that's so low that it's, all in the fine stuff, I don't know how often that's going to show up. Still be high enough for the XRF to handle it. But the chemical extraction, yeah.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah. I would basically give the gravity separation cutoff at somewhere around 500 mesh. Say the KD3 if you can get some of that, that'll give you a pretty effective technique. I don't know an alternative to it. So I'm not sure. I don't know if the guy still got some. I think last I heard he still had some to sell,
That was right.
but I don't know.
I thought so.
I'd like to know what's in that stuff. I think Tricky has a good idea. If not, the guy that was selling it, he didn't make it. He had a buddy that was the chemist, basically. So, and I think they were using it, if I'm not mistaken, to precipitate from an aqua regia type solution, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all, Jean-Francois.
This is excellent.
I mean, your big expense in something like that is going to be the mining and crushing. Then once you do your gravity extraction, especially if you're using leach solution as your liquid, then the actual leaching is going to be extraordinarily cheap. You're probably talking, a couple of bucks a ton. There's some chemical consumption costs and this and that and the other, but I would guess you should be able to get by with less than $10 a ton leaching and extraction cost. And, should go down with larger volumes.
I thought so.
Yeah, I don't think the crushing is going to be terribly difficult using a laterite. I'm always crushing quartz or kryptonite, which is, it's even worse than regular quartz. I like the stuff from the mystery dump because even though it's quartz, it's pretty easily broken up. So that's nice. Oh. Just wondering what we could do. Yeah. Just what do you call it? Hydraulic mining, huh? Yeah. I don't know. I'll say it. You should try some stuff. It might be after we get the mill up and running again, then Eva can do some testing like this while I'm crushing and such. Because this isn't Gordon, is it? That was your dad's name, wasn't it? This is Kevin, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct? Yeah, that's not going to recover real fine gold there. Yeah, I would think so, Jean-Francois, but you might very well be able to improve that with a better sluicing system at the end of what they're currently doing. Yeah, that's what I thought, Kevin. Sorry to hear about your dad. I would imagine so, Jean-Francois. With the brutality that they're using, Honey Bunny. Yeah, that is, they're trying to make do with what they got, and it would be difficult to operate under those conditions for sure. But say just upgrading the sluicing process might easily get half or more of what's left. That would be cool, Jean-Francois. But no, that's the sort of thing where if you haven't had to deal with a situation like that, I don't think you really have a good grasp of it. You know, I agree, Honey Bunny. That's exactly what Jean-Francois thinks too. He's just trying to figure out what's the most efficient way of improving things. Because once they're done with their material, now, you got Mount Baker is out there with their shaker table, which I understand. I mean, to a man with a shaker table, every gravity extraction needs a shaker table, and I can't blame them for that. It looks like a pretty good table. I like the apparent physics on it, but I'd have to try it to see. On the other hand, say by running your sluice with a Lixivent, a non-toxic Lixivent, you should be able to get everything. Yeah, same process, Alex, just an efficient sluice.
Okay, well,
so there's lots of ways of doing these things, but I think that I'm going to do pretty good this spring with a longer, better sluice than what I've got, and then with the EGX, when I'm talking about like the mystery dump ore and stuff like that. Hell, I can get down to that, Honey Bunny. Nope, I have never extracted gold from ferrocrete. Okay. All I've extracted gold from is basically natural rock. A variety of different kinds, but that's all.
Okay, so there's the...
And I've worked at mines where they did cyanide heap leaching. So I was pretty familiar with leaching and carbon adsorption and stripping and stuff like that. But then with the Eco Gold X, I had to kind of invent some other stuff to make it work. It would be nice to have the lab back running again, but that's probably going to be by the second half of April before we're back out at the mill. Just guessing. Again, it's all weather related, but then we can make some more progress there. But I think a sluice with plenty of volume in it will be just fine.
Nikki Haley got even stupider if that was even possible.
Oh, it's always possible.
Well, everything I want to do tomorrow is all close together. I don't know where they are in relation to what you're doing.
Where I'm going is it's just north of Great Falls, where we turned left and kind of paralleled the river a bit before turning right again to continue north to Coots.
Okay, what's the name of it?
Swain Spring, Swain.
Oh, on Blonde Road. Okay. Yeah, everything I want is south of that before we get to Swain. It's on the way back to, because my Smith's is right off the highway and Michael's is in the same plaza.
Okay.
Up the same street a ways by the hospital, sorta, kinda, is a Goodwill and Five Guys.
I wouldn't think so, Rock. Laterite is a heavily weathered material, which mainly aluminum oxide left. Whereas what he's talking about sounds more like iron oxides, kind of like a caliche, but using iron oxide instead of calcite. That's my guess. That sounds about right, Alex. What about them, Travis? And define colloidal in this context. Um, you know, I know most of them are rock, but I think they're stained from residual iron oxides more than primarily iron oxides. I'm not sure. I think I've also seen some yellow um, laterites. Okay, Travis, what leads you to believe that you have found a decent gold deposit? Have you had any laboratory tests now? Yellow powder deposits. What is okay, with iron? Okay. Have you like panned it or something and seen shiny little gold particles there? Or are you just going with it's an iron oxide with a yellow tint to it? It's kind of hard to evaluate with a few words here, so I'll just have to ask a few questions. Okay. If you could actually see real gold, and was this with your naked eye? Not familiar with that particular test, Travis. Um, Sodium metabisulfate. I say I'm not familiar with that particular test, Travis, so I can't give you any help with that one. Um, are you putting an oxidizer in that? Okay, you think 1/4 of the weight of the rock is gold. You need a way to prove this. Okay, send it off for a fire assay. Okay, if you've got 25% gold, then a fire assay will, you know, give you a really ridiculously good answer. There's a number of labs, and yes, it would also be quite dense. Honey Bunny is correct on that. But that might be hard to test. So find a good lab and have them do a fire assay on it. There's also some tellurides that are fairly volatile too. And if it was gold chloride mineral, which is extremely rare, it would be too. Do you have a particular lab you're thinking of or near you, Travis? The big boys Sure. You got my email? Okay, there's my email right there, Travis. And one of the problems with the big boys is for one or two samples, you're going to pay a pretty high cost per assay, and you're going to have a long wait time to get the results back in general. I usually use a guy named Lawrence Hiddle, and his are $45 a sample, and he usually gets me the results back in a week. So I've double checked him sometimes, a couple of times, and he's been accurate as far as I can tell. So I say that's the guy that I usually use because he seems to be fairly good, and he's also he's easy to talk to, and I say it. There's been times I've sent him some kind of oddball stuff, and so call him up and say, okay, here's like a resin sample to fire assay, something like that.
Which he sent us results and then requested that we don't send him a resin sample again.
Yeah, he didn't. I'm sure if we gave him $200, he would. He charged us, I think it was $60 because he knew it was going to be a hassle. He didn't realize how much of a hassle.
Yeah, I'm probably the only person on the planet that realizes just how much of a hassle it is fire assaying that stuff.
But anyhow, so I say that would be a good thing. I say you can certainly send me a picture to that email. If you send it tonight, just let me know once it's sent, and I can click to another tab. I've got an email tab open, so no big deal. If you got that kind of a trommel, yeah. I mean, basically the first part is essentially an autogenous ball mill. I mean, if you had something that was really a quarter gold, you could direct smelt it. It might take a little bit of testing to figure out what the optimum flux and everything else was. But yeah, that's direct smelting material. Oh, goodness. Oh. Let me see. Okay. I would think you could, Brian, but you'd have to have a pretty big furnace to direct smelt much if it was only 20 ounces to the ton. But let's say it shouldn't be too hard to for an assay or whatever. You're gonna see a lot of gold there, no matter how inefficient the process is. So that would verify it. Potentially, Brian. but you can probably do an upgrade cheaper initially. You know, once you get it up to 500 ounces to the ton, then your direct smelting becomes much more efficient. Because after all, 20 ounces per ton is still it's only 1 part in 2,000. So 0.05%. So, you know, if you can concentrate it to something that is, you know, over 10%, then you're going to be much more efficient. Smelting is very costly. The energy costs are high, the reagent costs are high, and all kinds of things. It's just much better if you can get a concentrate. You could table it. You might be able to float it. There's a lot of different ways. And then you could leach the tailings from that to recover. Because at 20 ounces per the ton, I mean, even a 5% loss rate is still 1 ounce to the ton tailings. That's definitely worth leaching. And if you don't want to leach that 1 ounce to the ton tailings, and as long as you got plenty, just let me know. I'll figure it out. Okay. Plus, the assayer said that he knows some guys up in Alaska with some pretty good stuff. But yeah, I would go for a concentration first and then leach the tailings from that step. That would be my guess. Oh. Although you could probably just, you know, do a simple concentration to get the core stuff and then tank leach the rest, and you wind up with you could direct electrowin that solution probably. Got it, Travis? Hasn't showed up yet, but I'll take a look in just a minute. Oh,
This one.
Goodness. Well, you got at least you got a barn. I've got a studio apartment, so to speak. I'm pretty much dependent on everyone else to provide the other stuff.
And you're going to have to keep doing things. I'm busy right now.
And in your tub. No, it's not in my tub. All the stuff is sitting in the bathroom, though. The liquid chemicals that could freeze are in secondary containment and in the bathroom. Keep them from freezing. Yeah, well, you forgot something else, Jean-Francois. You also have to be ruthless. You know? He didn't get there by being a nice guy. I don't think money is worth it to me, but it's worth it to him. Yep. There we go. There. Okay, Travis. Let's see. That stuff's as yellow as sulfur there. If that's gold, that would be extremely rich.
Oh, damn it.
Travis, question. How much of this material do you have? If it's actually gold, then you could sell that as specimen grade stuff. And should be able to get significantly over the melt value and no real processing. Yeah, I'd have to, if we're having a strong opinion, I'd have to actually take a look at one of the rocks myself, untreated. Yeah, there's markets for that. The uh, the Quartzsite show, the um, Tucson Rock and Gem show, stuff like that. Um, you can get, depending on actually how it looks and such like that, up to about 10 times the melt value for good cutting and polishing stone.
Oh. Fair.
What?
You're just gonna have to keep going for a while.
Okay.
I'm trying to get shit lined up for tomorrow.
But are you saying that, Travis, are you saying that that yellow on the rocks, because it looks like rocks that have yellow on them, okay, is that what I'm looking at here? Because if so, once you dissolve the gold, why did you not remove the solution from the rocks and then precipitate it with the sodium metabisulfite? Of course, the precipitate is fragile, but if you dissolve the gold, you got rocks, you put it in something to dissolve the gold, and then you precipitate. But wouldn't you remove the solution from the rocks first and then precipitate it so that you then, everything that you've got is precipitate? Okay. Yeah, I'm a bit confused, Travis, but I'd suggest having a fire assay done first, and assuming that that comes back positive, you could send me a small rock or something, and I could take a look at it and stuff. You filtered a clear orange solution, then dropped with SMB. Okay, so you should have nearly pure gold then at that point, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, just take it one step at a time. Go from there. If you're going too fast and you don't have the results of the preliminary stuff for the next stuff, you wind up, you can either be wasting time because it's not what you thought it was, or you may be heading in the wrong direction, which is just inefficient. And unless you're, for some external reason, in a big hurry, it's probably best to just take it slow and step by step. Well, let's see what this is. Hiddle's assay site, huh? Cool. Yeah. Okay. He's got a website now, huh? I wonder if they got a picture of him. I don't see it. There he is. He looks like quite the character. Interesting. Thank you, Tricky. Black Sands. Running triplicate and average. Yeah, they pretty need that for that. Penn State educated. Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that, Honey Bunny. Yep. Haven't heard anything from Tricky, Honey Bunny. I rarely hear from him except during the live streams, and I have no idea what he's doing. But it's not unusual for him to miss a live stream. I wouldn't be terribly concerned, but yeah, I haven't seen him at all tonight. I also haven't seen Chris, who I was expecting to see, but he may still not have had his thing there. Let me see if I can call Chris and see how he's doing. Let's see. New phone. Okay. Okay. I agree, Honey Bunny. We'll see what happens. Hey, Rich. Is Chris around? Okay. Yeah. Okay, I was just checking. This is Keith Bowen up here in Helena, and some people were asking him on the live stream how he's doing. Doesn't have to have a repair, huh? Okay. Well, tell Chris that I'll let everyone know that what's going on, and call if you can, but don't worry about it. Okay? You bet. You take care. Thank you. Bye. Well, apparently, Chris fell down, go boom. Not sure exactly any details, but anyhow, so he injured the site where they operated on him. So they're checking him out at the hospital to see if he did any significant damage and if they need to do anything about it. And so that's the situation with Chris right now. His dad didn't sound terribly scared or anything, but he might have fucked something up there. So they may have to do some repairs. So ouch, yeah. Anyhow, so that's the situation there. And I know Lauren was feeling peakedy, so I don't want to call him just to see what's going on. Yeah, Roberts, that's kind of what happened to Lauren, it seemed like. Got some kind of upper respiratory issue going on. Oh, dearie, dearie, dearie. Oh. Looks like the tinfoil hat goddess is about ready to go.
Well, the goddess is very annoyed with apps. Okay.
Okay. Here she is, folks.
Hi, everybody. The goddess does not consider most apps to be user friendly. The app for the grocery store is no exception here. Okay. Just saying. What else is new? So, it has been another blessedly, totally, and completely non eventful news week.
Yay!
Though I will say, hearing that Charles III has cancer was mildly disturbing. I do not like Charles III. However, I would not wish cancer on anyone. Very, very rude. Roberts, absolutely nothing is going on in Texas. The border is 100% secure. As a matter of fact, Nikki Haley today was saying that the Republicans who are refusing to pass this wonderful new border law that the Senate put out that is supposed to completely secure the border are just doing it to try to prop up Trump's candidacy or something like that, and that we really must pass this wonderful border security law for
Right, she did
national
say we were
security.
traitors.
It's for national security. Well, she practically did say we were traitors. So that's just another thing. That's just the way it always is. But yeah, if anyone missed that particular piece of non news that the media is absolutely not talking about, the purported border security bill that the Senate wants to pass, the actual text of this bill finally came to light, and it's every bit as bad as some of us thought it would be that were following the legislation on the Senate website. In fact, it's probably worse. It gives the head of DHS a whole bunch of powers that they don't have and have never had in the past. And of course, it does not do anything to secure the border. And for some bizarre and unaccountable reason, Ukraine gets about 10 times as much money as the US border gets. And Israel and Gaza get almost exactly the same amount of money. There's only about a $4 billion or $4 million difference in there between the two. So all of the other wars that we're funding should keep going right on schedule if this law passes and gets signed. With any luck, that will not happen. And Brian, I will have him check out your BOS recreational mining thing. But that's the way that's going. Meanwhile, absolutely nothing is going on in Eagle Pass. Nothing is going on the southern border. And despite rumors to the contrary, nothing's going on the Canadian border either. All those rumors that cartel people and other random dudes are smuggling people south over the Canadian border at about $3,000 a head, which, by the way, is about 1/3 the price to come north over the southern border, are absolutely unsubstantiated rumors and tinfoil hat conspiracies. Thou shalt not listen to those at all. Just saying. And you may notice there's a note on the board back there about shipping. That is a YouTube channel that is very interesting to watch for people who are interested in finding out what's going on with ships. There's a lot of ships that are not doing the things that they used to be doing a while back. So, yeah, in the world of non news, that is what's going on. Meanwhile, Gates and Bezos backed Cobalt Metals says Zambia copper find is the largest in a century.
Ooh, that'd be good.
Cobalt Metals, backed by a coalition of billionaires,
Uh-oh.
including Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, said on Monday its Mingomba asset in Zambia is the country's largest copper deposit in a century, and it plans to fast track its development. So let's see. Monsieur Gates invested heavily in vaccines, and that did not go well. And he invested heavily in farmland right after investing heavily in lab grown meats, which is kind of bizarre and unaccountable. And now he's investing in copper mines, which is kind of bizarre and unaccountable, since he supposedly is an environmentalist. Huh. One has to wonder about this. The California based startup has been drilling at its Zambian permit for a little over a year. During this time, Cobalt president Josh Goldman said they have confirmed the huge size of the deposit. Mingomba is shaping up to be extraordinary, he said, adding the potential of the discovery compares to that of the Kamoa Kakula mine, owned by Ivanhoe Mines and China's Xizing Mining. This operation, located just across the border in the Democratic Republic of Congo, produced almost 400,000 tons NES of copper last year. The story with Mingomba is it's like Kakula in both size and grade, Goldman said on the sidelines of Indaba Mining Conference in South Africa, according to Bloomberg. It's going to be of the highest grade, large underground mine. Cobalt bought into the project in 2022 via a joint venture with existing owners, Australian private equity firm EMR Capital and Zambia's state-owned mining investment vehicle ZCCM-IH. Cobalt still plans to have the $2 billion with a B underground copper mine in Zambia built within the decade, with first production in the early 2030s, but it needs to update resource estimate and complete feasibility studies before it makes the decision to go ahead. Goldman is not worried about securing capital. Bezos and Gates, yeah, I wouldn't be worried about securing capital either. Even with the divorces, they're worth a crap ton of money, you know. The issue globally is not a lack of availability of capital, it's a lack of availability of high quality projects. And where there are returns, there is capital. For a great project, there will be capital. If built, the Mongoma project would align with the vision of Zambia's president Hakainde Hichilema to increase the nation's copper production to 3 million tons NES by 2032 to help the country reduce its debt burden. Good idea. Provided the money actually goes to that, that would be a very good idea. The company is not just focused on copper, but rather all minerals and metals considered critical for the energy transition. There we go with that energy transition thing again. How bizarre. It began his quest for battery metals 3 years ago in Canada, after it acquired rights to the area in northern Quebec, just south of Glencore's Raglan nickel mine, where it detected lithium. The startup now has about a dozen exploration properties in places including Zambia, Namibia, DRC, Quebec, Saskatchewan, Ontario, and Western Australia, which have resulted from joint ventures with BHP and Blue Jay Mining to explore for minerals in Greenland. It also has exploration activities underway in South Korea and the United States. We're last on the list again. I wonder why. And in December, it launched a 4-continent search for lithium deposits. Funny. The goddess remembers reading recently that the price of lithium and the price of nickel were both going in the toilet. That seems a little odd. Just saying. It collects and analyzes multiple streams of data from old drilling results to satellite imagery to better understand where new deposits might be found. Algorithms applied to data collected determine the geological patterns that indicate a potential deposit of cobalt, which occurs naturally alongside nickel and copper. The technology, Cobalt said, can locate resources that may have eluded more traditional geologists and can help miners decide where to acquire land and drill. Hmm. You know, Professor Hardrock, didn't we hear about some yo-yo in the area that was dowsing mining locations via satellite and some computer program?
I don't know if dowsing would be the correct word, but he supposedly had some methodology for analyzing satellite stuff that would give him.
Well,
No,
apparently
after
these
he-
guys believe in that too. Goldman noted the company was considering going public in the next 3 or 4 years. Really now? Which means everything they say needs to be taken with a much larger grain of salt. Just saying. Rio Tinto unit faces criminal case in Canada over injured worker. What did Rio Tinto do this time? What a beautiful view of a really ugly mine. Look at that. That's just bizarre.
What happened?
It's a Divic diamond mine.
Oh yeah, it's in the middle of a lake.
Horrific. So ugly. A Canadian unit of global mining company Rio Tinto is facing a criminal case after an employee was seriously injured at an Arctic diamond mine, according to an announcement by local authorities. The accident took place on January 26, 2023, at the Divic mine, which is located about 200 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle in the Northwest Territories. The WSCC has filed a case against the mine, and the next step is a hearing on March 19th at the criminal court in Yellowknife, the capital of the Northwest Territories. The WSCC revealed the case in a statement issued on Friday. Divic Diamond Mine is charged with multiple counts alleging violations of the Mines Health and Safety Act, including failure to implement and maintain safe work practices and failure to take every reasonable measure to protect the health and safety of employees, as well as other offenses, it said, but gave no details on the accident. Rio Tinto said in a statement on Monday, Divic took the health and safety of employees very seriously, and it declined to comment further given the criminal case. 6 people died last month after a small plane carrying Rio Tinto workers crashed near Fort Smith in the Northwest Territories shortly after taking off for Divic. 4 of those were employees of Rio Tinto. In 2022, Rio Tinto reported 0 fatalities and had an all-injury frequency rate, the number of injuries per 2 million hours worked, of 0.40, the same as the previous year. The company's annual report said in 2022 the number of potentially fatal incidents rose to 19 compared to 16 in 2021. The goddess will say this. She hopes, most sincerely, that if Rio Tinto is fucking up and not following Canada's MSHA laws, they get banhammered very, very hard. If that is not the case, well, the goddess will say that that's a really damn good safety record compared to what miners used to have to do. Yeah, exactly, honey bunny. And I don't know why criminal court, Jean Francois, I don't understand Canadian law, Just saying. I do not know Canadian law, but I will say this. From the air, that mine just is such an ugly sight. Really, really. Not happy. From green hype to bailouts, the nickel industry has imploded. How bizarre. Just 18 months ago, the world's biggest mining company was in a nickel frenzy. BHP Group, to much fanfare, had struck a deal with Tesla to supply it with a crucial ingredient for electric vehicles. It was about to go toe-to-toe with Australian billionaire Andrew Forrest for control of one of the globe's most prospective mines. For BHP, nickel offered a bright spot. Its management had earmarked the material as a key pillar of growth, a future facing commodity that would help offset its exit from fossil fuels and let it tap into new demand driven by the world's race to decarbonize. Yet things have quickly soured for BHP and other miners. The nickel market has been thrown into chaos after a flood of new supply from Indonesia. The result of huge Chinese investment and major technological breakthroughs. Ooh, Chinese. Mines across the world are at risk of closing. Others are asking for state bailouts or going bust. BHP, for one, is now weighing up the future of its flagship Nickel West mine in Australia. Until recently, many of the industry's biggest names couldn't have been more bullish about the prospects of nickel. The once boring metal traditionally used to make steel stainless is a crucial ingredient for electric vehicle batteries. A supply shortage stretching for years to come was forecast, and mining companies jumped at a great opportunity to burnish their green credentials. Traditionally, nickel's been split into two categories: low grade for making stainless steel, and high grade for batteries. A huge Indonesian expansion of low grade production led to a surplus, but processing innovations have allowed that glut to be refined into a high grade product that's hitting the battery market. As a result, prices for the metal have crashed over 40% from a year ago, adding to hurdles in a market that's also wobbling from weak demand and persistent concerns about China's economy. There should be concerns about China's economy. Macquarie analysts estimate more than 60% of global industry is losing money at current prices. Hmm, this is not surprising. The scale of the collapse has left some in the industry questioning if there's a future for most nickel mines outside of Indonesia. Really now. It's also adding to concerns among US and European policymakers about China's control over key commodities, with its company leading much of Indonesia's production. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Maybe y'all should have been worrying a whole lot more about Panda Land when they were let into the World Trade Organization, which was an abysmally bad idea. After watching the tide go out on the nickel world for over a year with the halving of the metal price, we've got some high cost assets exposed now, said Tom Price, head of commodity strategy at Liberum Capital Limited. He added mines in Western Australia and the French territory of New Caledonia are likely to be the most vulnerable. In New Caledonia, the South Pacific island chain that was once seen as the future of nickel production, the French government has been forced to step in to keep mines and plants operating that are central and essential to the territory's economy. Officials have been meeting with key shareholders of three processing plants to hammer out a rescue deal, with no breakthrough so far. The situation is equally bleak in Australia. In addition to BHP's review of nickel assets there, Panoramic Resources Limited is suspending a key mine after entering voluntary administration late last year when it failed to find a buyer or partner. An IGO Limited site will be shuttered, as will some operated by tycoon Andrew Forrest's Wailu Metals and First Quantum Minerals. Producers in Western Australia are turning to officials for help. At a crisis meeting at the end of last month, miners asked the federal government to provide tax credits for downstream processing. But even with production pullbacks starting to bite, they're unlikely to provide imminent support to nickel prices, according to Alan Ray Restauro, an analyst at Bloomberg NEF. The flood of supply from Indonesia is projected to continue to exert downward pressure on prices in 2024. That's because Indonesian production, which already accounts for half of the global supply, may prove more resistant to output cuts. The Southeast Asian nation has emerged as a global nickel hub after billions of dollars of investment in efficient plants that benefit from inexpensive labor, cheap power, and readily available raw materials. Still, the country's rapid expansion has drawn criticism. Much of its production comes from coal-powered energy, giving it higher emissions per ton than rival producers, and its rapid expansion is eroding rainforests. Producers such as BAP have instead trumpeted buyers paying a premium for so-called green nickel would help lift prices. So far, there has been little evidence of that. The company conceded late last year automakers remain happy to buy Indonesian nickel, suggesting there will be little relief for miners elsewhere anytime soon. What can stop these mines and project closures? A sustained lift in nickel prices. Typically, only a nickel demand recovery can achieve that. So let's see if the goddess has this right. The globalists came up with this boondoggle of an idea about the Great Green Agenda. And they said that unless the mining kicked into high gear on all of these critical metals, copper included, there would be radical shortages in a couple of years, and the whole planet would die, by the way, in the next 12 years. We all know this. They said 12 years ago the planet would be dead this year. I don't think it's happened yet, but I might be wrong. So, in response to this, the Chinese, being the forward-looking individuals they have been, and who have been planning for this for some time, got together with people in Indonesia, built some seriously state-of-the-art things, and threw a massive amount of money at the problem. And the Indonesian government apparently permitted anything and everything and got the frog out of the way. As a result, we are now seeing that, yes, if you throw enough money at a problem and get all the government regulation out of the way, don't worry about the little details, you can produce a whole hell of a lot more shit than normally gets produced in an extremely small time frame. I mean, just think, if the same thing happened to copper. Here's poor First Quantum with the largest copper mine in Panama that accounted for 3% of the country's GDP, which is not an insignificant number, actually, for a country the size of Panama, had shut down because of a bunch of greenie weenies and environmental yo-yos. At a time when everyone is still forecasting a shortage of copper that is already happening, getting worse, and will continue to get worse as the Great Green Agenda advances. Now, if we really had a functioning Great Green Agenda, and there really were a shortage of copper, it would stand to reason that the Panamanian government and other governments would say, okay, we're fast tracking the permitting, we're fast tracking everything, we're getting the frog out of the way, and we're going to let you mine. For some bizarre and unaccountable reason, this is not happening, at least not in parts of the world where the Chinese government does not have their fingers in every pie and is not bribing large numbers of officials. China's mining complex now pretty much spans the entire globe, including the good parts of Africa, large parts of Africa, large parts of Indonesia, large parts of elsewhere. They've been throwing money into Canada. They've been throwing money into Australia. They've been throwing money into South America. And at some point, when they're able to buy politicians, you can bet when they start being able to buy politicians in the places they aren't already able to buy politicians, their projects are going to get green lights and fast tracks. Which is why you never, ever, ever should outsource your critical infrastructure needs to people who probably hate your friggin' guts, okay? That shouldn't have happened in the first place. Be that as it may, we're stuck with it now. Economics lesson coming in here. UPS announces layoffs just months after lucrative union deal, raising wages. Oh, yes, this is something the goddess was actually kind of chuckling over because really, this is something that's totally obvious. And something else came up earlier that was also totally obvious in the same line. Economics always wins. Just ask the UPS workers. The shipping giant recently announced plans to lay off 12,000 with a T employees, citing a forecast for weaker shipping demand in 2024. Yes, there is indeed weaker shipping demand in 2024. The company said that downsizing will save about $1 billion with a B in employee costs, according to a report published by Yahoo Finance. The mass layoffs will primarily target management level and contracted positions. They come after the shipping giant reported a 9.3% decline in revenue to $91 billion from $100.3 billion with a B. That's gross, by the way. The move comes just 6 months after the Teamsters Union won a lucrative deal, raising wages for both full and part-time unionized workers. According to UPS, the new deal will raise full-time delivery driver earnings to an average of $170,000 in wages and benefits. Now, the goddess will say this. The goddess knows doctors that don't make 170 grand a year. The goddess knows her son, who has gotten 3 promotions in the last year and is a very valued safety employee for a very large public transit system, ain't making no $170,000 a year. And the kid actually works his butt off, by the way. Okay? The goddess knows many professionals in all areas and industry sectors that have been doing their jobs 10, 15, 20 years and are not making $170,000 a year. So the goddess has to wonder, and no offense on UPS drivers and delivery people, most of the ones I've met are very nice, but the goddess does have to wonder, as she sees that brown truck going down the dirt roads around here and dropping off boxes, in what universe is a delivery driver for UPS or the Postal Service or FedEx doing anything that's worth $100,000 a year? Seriously. This is just a little bit ridiculous. The deal will also add 7,500 union jobs and require the fulfillment of more than 22,000 open positions, allowing more workers to transition from part-time to full-time. Teamsters have set a new standard and raised the bar for pay, benefits, and working conditions in the package delivery industry. This is the template for how workers should be paid and protected nationwide. And non-union companies like Amazon better pay attention. Teamsters General President Sean M. O'Brien said in a media statement after the deal was finalized. This is indeed a fantastic deal for the workers who get to keep their jobs. The real minimum wage is always zero. Minimum wage laws and union pay scales are politically popular. According to the narrative, benevolent politicians and union bosses drive pay higher to force greedy businesses like UPS to pay their workers a decent wage. It sounds great, doesn't it? A victory for the little guy. But minimum wage policies rely on an enduring economic myth, the notion these laws and union deals only help workers and have no real negative effects. The fallacy inherent in this line of thinking becomes immediately clear if we simply propose $1,000 an hour minimum wage. It's obvious this would be unsustainable and would create all kinds of problems. Nobody could pay that ridiculous wage. While not that extreme, the UPS union deal effectively raised the imposed minimum wage for union workers. It also significantly limits the company's flexibility in hiring and firing. Make no mistake, the company was coerced into offering these raises and wouldn't have agreed to the big pay increases if it was only considering the economic ramifications. In fact, part of the big decline in business last year was due to worries about the labor unrest. According to Yahoo Finance, UPS customers concerned about delays to their shipments switched to rival carriers like FedEx. A wage is nothing more than the price of labor. And labor is subject to the laws of supply and demand. When you raise the price of something, demand falls. That means raising the price to hire something will ultimately mean fewer people get hired. It is critical to understand what governments and unions can force employers to pay some workers minimum wage, but they can't force a company to hire you. In the case of UPS, the union deal requires the company to increase the number of unionized positions. That puts the company between a rock and a hard place. With business declining, it almost certainly won't need that many union workers, but it can't fire them because of the union. Something had to give. The company can't eat declining revenue forever, so it cut costs where it could. Non union management and contractor positions. I suppose it doesn't matter much to union bosses or UPS drivers with secure jobs, but the 12,000 people soon to be standing in the unemployment line have families too. This teaches an important economic lesson. You can't suspend economic laws by government or union edict. There's always trade offs when it comes to economic calculations. That's because we operate in a world with scarce resources. Where you have winners, there are almost always losers. In the case of UPS, more resources for drivers means fewer resources for other workers. UPS adjusted by cutting where it could. As French economist Frédéric Bastiat explained in his famous essay, That Which Is Seen and That Which Is Not Seen, good economists not only focus on the obvious good outcomes of a policy, but also consider the possible negative unseen consequences. Okay? Unfortunately, most politicians, union officials, and people in general are not very good economists. A couple of other interesting things came up in this discussion online on Reddit. We were discussing various labor things that happen. You may have missed the news if you don't live in the Seattle, Washington area. And frankly, given what's going on in Seattle these days, be glad you don't live in the Seattle, Washington area. Okay, it's like San Francisco, but rainier. Just saying. Anyway, they passed a gig worker law a little while back, that forced Uber and Instacart and all of the gig driver jobs of the same type to pay a higher fee to the worker for picking up these deliveries and mileage reimbursements and other little things. This was supposed to give gig workers a living wage. We'll never forget the fact that a living wage is absolutely not a thing, okay? So they just now got around to interviewing some of these gig workers here recently, and wouldn't you know it, it actually completely dried up their friggin' business. Because part of this deal was that there would be an extra surcharge tacked on to orders. So, in a time when people have less discretionary money to begin with, seeing that your Uber Eats is now going to randomly cost you an extra $5 on top of your 30% guilt tip that most people were paying, and the ordinary fees and the markup of the restaurant food, meant a whole lot of people stopped ordering Uber Eats. They stopped using gig services. So now, gig workers that were making reasonable money, though they weren't rolling in it, and were able to budget and plan and pay their bills, are unable to because all the work dried up. The same thing is happening in different ways down in California, land of the fruits, nuts, and flakes. You may remember that they raised the minimum wage for certain select groups of fast food restaurant employees to $20 an hour. Well, a lot of the employees that work in those fast food restaurants right now are very unhappy campers because their restaurants are keeping a whole lot fewer warm bodies around on shift because they can't afford the additional labor charge. So the folks that are now happily making $20 an hour are actually having to do the work of two or three people, which is not necessarily a strain if you're an average person with a work ethic. The goddess could do it. He could do it. Anyone in this audience could probably do it. But apparently it's very much of a strain for a whole lot of people. More than that, the prices have in fact gone up in the restaurants. More people are not getting hired, which is no surprise to anybody. The businesses that are not affected by this are finding it very hard to get employees because all the employees are refusing to work They're saying they'd rather wait and never get hired for $20 an hour at that corporate McDonald's than come work at your fast food restaurant for 18 or 17 or $16 an hour so they actually have a paycheck. Oh no, they must have $20 an hour now. This is not going to go well. Of course, given Newsom's newest brilliant idea, I think things are going to get worse in California for a lot of other reasons. Because his newest idea, this is a real Lulu. I thought this was from the Babylon Bee when I first saw it, but it turned out to be not the onion and not the bee. Apparently, Gavin Newsom is trying to talk his Democrat Party out there in California into changing the way electricity is charged for. So it would be based on your income and equity rather than your use. So, in theory, of course, this means that the multimillionaires living in Bel Air are going to be paying like, $100 a kilowatt hour or whatever, so that John and Mary, who are trying to make it on their $20 an hour jobs at McDonald's, will be paying 2 cents a kilowatt hour or something along those lines. That is the premise here. Well, what happens in that? I will leave you all to contemplate the worst case scenario involved in that insanity.
You want
And
to
if
that
it ever-
baseball player?
Baseball player. Oh, yes. In a related random thing that happened, there's a Japanese baseball player who apparently is like total legend, Hall of Fame material, everything else. Got hired by who? The LA Dodgers or?
I think it was the Dodgers.
Well, he got hired by somebody for like $700 million with an M for a 10-year contract. Highest fees ever found in baseball type thing. He's asked, because he's based in California for the next 10 years, he is asked to be paid only $2 million a year while he's living in California. And he'll take the balance of his contract after it's over and he's moved. Something tells me that he's not going to be the only person to try that little workaround, which will be interesting when the court cases finally get to the Supreme Court, since California is now trying to retroactively charge people for taxes that have moved out of their state to get money. But that's not going to work either.
They might even have some kind of a line of reasoning here because he did earn it while he was in
Yeah,
California.
they may have there. Silver demand expected to hit second highest level on record in 2024. Yeah, silver. Silver demand is expected to rise 1%, hitting 1.2 billion with a B ounces in 2024, the second highest level on record, according to projections by the Silver Institute. They are a little bit sketchy over there, but hey, Industrial demand for silver is expected to lead the growth in global demand this year, with a 4% increase to a record 690 million ounces. That would build the all-time high industrial demand in 2023. Continued growth in the solar energy sector and the automotive industry will continue to be key drivers of growth. The push for green energy is expected to provide long-term support for the silver market. According to the Silver Institute, global photovoltaic installations significantly exceeded market expectations in 2023, and new capacity additions are forecast to reach another record high this year. Silver offtake will also benefit from a technological breakthrough bringing new, higher efficiency N-type solar cells into mass production. These solar cells use even more silver than the older technology. Yes. According to a 2022 research paper by scientists at the University of New South Wales, solar manufacturers could consume over 20% of the current annual silver supply by 2027. And by 2050, solar panel production will use approximately 85 to 98% of current global silver reserves. Some analysts speculate silver demand for photo production will eventually flatten as the industry develops cheaper alternatives to the white metal. But according to the paper, even if the industry finds ways to reduce the use of silver in individual panels, overall demand will still increase. The green energy sector should also remain relatively recession-proof due to government commitments to funding it. Meanwhile, a projected recovery in consumer electronics markets should further boost industrial silver demand. The silver jewelry market is also projected to set a record in 2024, rising 6%. A resurgence in Indian jewelry demand is expected to drive the increase. The Silver Institute expects investment demand to decline in 2024, sagging to a 6-year low. According to its analysis, demand in the U.S. will likely lead the way as stocks surge and economic growth, thanks to anticipated Federal Reserve interest cuts. Oh, the goddess must interject here. We're getting very close to the time when people are going to realize that the Federal Reserve is full of shit, and most of the government numbers are full of shit. So that surge in stocks and stuff is something that the goddess would not necessarily count on. There's a blind spot in the Silver Institute's analysis. It does not seem to anticipate anything breaking in the U.S. economy due to higher interest rates. It's already broken. A financial crisis would crater that expected economic growth and tank the stock market. There are already signs of stress in the banking system, and the commercial real estate market is ripe for crisis. If something breaks in the economy, it's already broken. This scenario would likely send investment demand soaring, but could put a damper on industrial offtakes. On the supply side, the Silver Institute projects a recovery in mine output, pushing total supply up 3% to an 8-year high of 1.02 billion with a B ounces. This will be somewhat offset by a decline in silver recycling. Even with the recovery of mine output, the Silver Institute projects another market deficit in 2024 with demand outstripping supply. That would mark the 4th straight year of a structural market deficit and further cut into silver reserves. Silver is not priced for these market dynamics. As we reported last month, silver is not priced for these market dynamics. At between $22 and $23 an ounce, silver is on sale. So is gold. The gold-silver ratio is spread to almost 90 to 1. That means it takes almost 90 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. This is a historically wide spread. The average gold-silver ratio in the modern era is generally ranged between 40 to 1 and 60 to 1. When the ratio widens far beyond that range, as it has in recent years, it typically returns toward that mean. For instance, the ratio fell to 30 to 1 in 2011 and below 20 to 1 in 1979. The pandemic era provides a more recent example. As the Fed cut rates and launched quantitative easing to prop up a shaky economy caused by rate hikes the prior year, the gold-silver ratio climbed to nearly 93 to 1 as silver rallied along with gold. The gold-silver ratio plunged from over 100 to 1 to just over 64 to 1, close to the high end of historical norms. It is pretty clear silver is not priced for current demand dynamics. Now, there's a couple of things to be considered here. First of all, the economy is already broken. We are in a zombie economy. The thing about zombie economies is they shamble along until the day they don't. Some Monday morning, it will go poof. Historically, this happens on Mondays, by the way. Or at least, historically, it is announced on Mondays or Sundays when people have not had a chance to do anything. What usually happens, cutthroat, is silver is going to accelerate in its upward trajectory to come up and meet gold. Gold generally leads because it is the money of big banks and it's the money of governments. Silver follows behind. So gold is setting a new benchmark right now at over 2,000 an ounce. Every single day it holds that and goes up a little more. It solidifies that as the new floor. Silver is going to start getting higher gains to come up to correct that ratio. It really can't do much else because with recycling not where it should be, demand where it is, and the economy being a zombie economy, that's kind of the way this is going to work. That is why the goddess buys silver. The goddess does not buy gold as a general rule. I mean, yeah, if we see a really nice piece and somebody has sent us a huge chunk of money, we probably would buy it. But as a rule, the goddess buys silver. Always. Just saying. A banking crisis is quietly brewing. It ain't so quiet if you watch the Fred, okay? There is still shit to be seen on Fred. It just takes a little digging to find it. The Federal Reserve's most recent policy statement came with a curious omission. Fed officials removed language from previous statements that proclaimed the U.S. banking system is sound and resilient. That begs the question, is the banking system no longer sound and resilient? Well, considering that the Fed yo-yo, Jerome, was saying here recently, echoing what Yellen said a while back, well, we're probably going to lose some small and state banks and some regional banks. They're going to get swallowed up by the big guys. But that's fine. It's healthy. And the big guys are healthy. Yes. Okay. The Fed initially inserted the language March 2023 following the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. Well, yeah. Whose balance sheet obviously was not sound or resilient. Fed officials and banking regulators went out of their way to assure us that SVB's troubles were particular to its portfolio of assets, which was bullshit. But higher interest rates, falling bond values, and shaky commercial real estate markets are negatively affecting other large banks as well. So let's go through this list here. Higher interest rates? Well, yeah, because they can't really give you too much more on savings, and, interest rates matter to banks. Falling bond values. Well, yeah, when the federal government uses regulatory fiat to coerce you at the point of a regulatory gun to buy their failing U.S. Treasury bonds when nobody else will, even though you're buying them at a loss, and you need to carry the unrealized losses on your books and hope to hell you can find a sucker to pay you a break-even price when they mature. Yeah, that's a problem, I would think, just saying. And shaky commercial real estate markets. The latest figure that the goddess saw that was sort of an extrapolation from the available data out there is commercial real estate spaces in a large growing number of cities, not just big ones, but even small ones like Helena, are now topping 15 to 20% and climbing. It's kind of hard to make any money on real estate when it's all empty. Last week, shares of New York Community Bank Corp suffered a dramatic sell-off after it reported $252 million in losses for the fourth quarter of 2023. The $252 million that they lost in 2023 was in part unrealized losses from treasury bonds that they were forced to hold because of a loan that they got from the feds. And also the other part was commercial lending, commercial real estate that is standing empty in major cities. Okay? Broader troubles for regional banks loom in this supposedly strong economy. In the event of or ahead of a recession, a wave of bank failures could trigger another financial crisis, some industry analysts warn. None other than J.P. Morgan Chase CEO, Jamie Dimon, is warning of a debt crisis gathering. Yeah, he's been offloading stock like crazy lately. I wonder what he knows, scammer that he is. Just saying. In recent remarks, Dimon said unsustainable growth in U.S. government debt is heading toward a cliff that will trigger a rebellion among global holders of treasuries. Note the U.S. debt number on the wall back here, okay? Meanwhile, J.P. Morgan Chase, Bank of America, PNC, and other big banks have recently announced the closures of hundreds of physical branch locations across the United States. It's meant to reduce overhead costs and push customers into online banking. It's more than that, okay? the reasons that they're closing physical locations. Remember, your bank is no longer required to hold any cash reserves in house. Zero. All those nice little cashier drawers behind the counter can be absolutely empty. The vault can be absolutely empty. They're not required to keep money around. So let's say that you get an antsy feeling one fine day and you see that a bank stock is suddenly going in the damn toilet and you decide to drive down to your local branch to pull out your cash just in case. Well, if you don't have a local branch anymore, that's going to be a little tough. Now, ain't it? So, yeah, they want to push you into online banking. They want to push you into online banking because, first of all, they want to make sure it is as hard as possible for you to access your money in a physical form. Second of all, they're in cahoots with the federal government, cahooting to remove any sense of privacy. They are trying to make physical fiat currency go poof. They want to move us all to digital currency so they always know where your money is. They always know what you're spending it on. And anytime they want and you have pissed them off, or they decide you owe 17 cents in taxes and $33,212 in penalties, they can just steal it right out of your bank account. Or anytime they want, they can devalue your central bank digital currency so that your dollar is now a new dollar that's worth 1% of what it was at midnight last night. So they can pump and dump any way, shape, or form that they want to. And we will be entirely at their mercy. Okay? So that's that right there. Just so you know, some customers of Chase Bank have recently reported thousands of dollars in deposits missing from their accounts and having difficulty obtaining a resolution. Speaking of which, you do realize that there are still tens of thousands of people across the United States who got caught up in that little boondoggle between Zelle and Bank of America some months ago that never got their money back because if you use Zelle to transfer money, they consider it just like cash. It goes poof. So, yeah, there is that to be considered as well. Other customers have had their accounts abruptly closed without warning or explanation. And for the record, the goddess personally knows people that were in excellent standing and were told when their accounts were closed with no explanation and then afterwards told suspicious activity when none had occurred, that they had to wait up to 21 business days to get their money. It's in the fine print. Just saying. Last summer, attorneys general in 19 states accused JP Morgan of discriminating against banking customers by closing their accounts for having the wrong political beliefs or engaging in too many cash transactions, for example. In the current environment, holding some of one's liquid wealth outside the banking system is an essential asset protection strategy. Physical precious metals represent hard money that's nobody else's liability and cannot be digitally lost or canceled. Some bullion holders make the mistake of storing coins, rounds, or bars in a bank safe deposit box. Okay? First of all, it's actually against the law to store a whole hell of a lot of stuff in bank deposit boxes. You can't store fiat currency in one. Just so you know, it's illegal. You can store bullion. I believe that in some places you're not allowed to store 90% silver. You can only store bullion, okay? This is something that a lot of people don't realize. 99% of the things you would think you'd be storing in a bank deposit box, you're actually not allowed to by law, but people do anyway. Just saying. While the contents of safe deposit boxes are generally not known to bank employees or reported to the government, don't count on that either. Risks remain. They include branch closures, bank failures, thefts, and in some circumstances, raids by law enforcement agents. Your personal information is held at the bank and is ultimately tied to any safe deposit box you own. In a few cities, non-bank safe deposit facilities exist. that claim to offer greater security and privacy protection. Unfortunately, these claims of privacy invite suspicions from the feds, in at least one instance, that such facilities are used to hide ill gotten gains. By the way, the outcome of that one, the feds went into one of those private safe deposit box places. They seized all the boxes. There are still people that were not even involved with the supposed illicit activity that haven't gotten their stuff back. And the Fed still has yet to prove that there was any illicit activity going on in the first place. Just saying. In March 2021, the Fed raided hundreds of anonymous safe deposit boxes offered by a company called U.S. Private Vaults in Beverly Hills. The agency attempted to seize everything in customers' boxes worth more than $5,000 without even bothering to charge them individually with a crime. This is part of that RICO thing. Last month, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled the FBI acted unlawfully in rummaging through boxes, looking for valuables to take, and in refusing to return property to lawful owners. That doesn't mean anything's happened. That doesn't mean the FBI or other government agencies won't be able to find legal workarounds to conduct future, more narrowly targeted raids of private safe deposit box facilities. Not to mention, they're going to fight in court before they give that shit back. To be sure, what likely attracted the FBI's attention to U.S. private vaults was the unusual business model of eschewing all identification information on any box. In other words, not even U.S. private vaults knew the identity of their own safe deposit box holders, much less the contents, which is as it should be, but that's not the way it is. So if you insist on not storing your metals at home, well, you know, the goddess is definitely going to think that you're a yo-yo for having this stance. But if you really want to, there are plenty of reputable companies that offer depository systems outside of the banking system where you can buy your metal from an online bullion dealer like AppNex or SD Bullion or whoever, and you can put it in a dedicated box, in a dedicated vault that belongs to you. Just make sure that you have a personal vault with your shit and that you can get your shit sent to you with little or no hassle and little or no notification needed. Because some of these companies will make you jump through more hoops than others. Okay?
Question.
Yes.
If the feds come in and say nothing moves out of here unless we say so, what happens?
No clue. We all saw what happened with Liberty Safe when the feds went in there on a very, very bad pretext with a search warrant that didn't even apply to Liberty, and Liberty handed over the safe information. So this is why you should be holding your own shit, people. Because if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Bye.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Is that number accurate? Did we get?
Oh, let me get you the last figure. We have gone up from 484, so let's see where we are now. Give me a second to read it. Okay, we are now at 597.
597.
Yeah, right, 597 under the 484, dude.
$110 million just while you were flapping.
597 before it goes to 598. Write it down. We need to commemorate this.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Well, what did you expect?
597.
597.
$100 million just while you were giving your talk?
Yes. As a matter of fact, let me make sure. It's about to change again.
Huh? Just a second.
598.
598.
Okay. Yes.
So we got over $300 million during your talk.
Just so you know. Well, look at the difference between this week and last week.
Well,
Things are getting good. At our current trajectory, we will be over to $11 billion a week very shortly.
yeah,
Just saying.
man, it's getting frickin' ridiculous. Okay, so I see A lot of people dropped off here. Ouch. Oh, my back. Eve and I headed up to Great Falls tomorrow to get the truck suspension worked on. All the springs rebushed and re-arched, and probably a couple, one or so leaves added into the rear springs to make them a little strongier. So, I don't know. For some reason, it usually goes down while Eve is on. Apparently, there's a lot of people who are much more interested in the mining stuff than actually the ancillary things.
Which is fine.
Which is fine. That's why we have two different segments. By the way, Tucker Carlson is in Moscow right now. Rumors are he is going to be interviewing Vlad, the evil Vlad Putin.
And rumors are that certain political figures are trying to get his passport pulled so he can't come back to the U.S. until Congress investigates him.
They're not rumors. People have actually made public statements to that. They're saying he shouldn't be let back in the country. He's a traitor, blah, blah, blah.
Well, yeah. I mean, he flat out said he supported Russia in this Ukraine thing.
Yeah. So anyhow, I find that quite fascinating. I continue to see the trajectory I've been seeing for the last 6 or 12 months, and it doesn't end up in a good place, in my opinion. Also interesting to look at the dichotomy between the activities in Europe right now, where you have a lot of farmers and truckers and stuff getting a little rowdy over there, actually. And you would think this would have some kind of news value, but apparently it doesn't.
Of course it doesn't.
Because nobody is reporting on it. Wow. Treehouse. McConnell retreats from support of border deal. Langford may vote against his own legislation. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read about that.
Crash and burn. Yep. Let's see. Anything? Yeah. How about just trying to do your frickin' jobs, guys? I know this is a really strange concept.
They are doing their job. Their job is not the job you think it is.
No, I'm talking about their official job. Okay? So, anyhow, I just continue to be focusing on a lot of other stuff too besides mining, but it's the off season, so why not? And that's just kind of where we're at right now. Do there happen to be any mining questions or any comments or anything like this? I have trouble arguing with your conclusion there, honey bunny. Oh, dearie me. So, I say we shall see what we shall see. I think that we can predict a lot of unpredictability between now and same time next year, and it could get pretty interesting. Hopefully, it doesn't get kinetic, but I wouldn't bet on that. Here, we're in pretty good shape, so we shall see what we shall see. I found it interesting that Constantine over in the Caucasus, Georgia, actually had an almost identical view of the situation here in the United States as I do. I specifically asked him, from your viewpoint and your perspective, what do you think about the situation here in the United States right now? Tell you what, there's like zero disagreement. Now, I added a couple things to it, and but it was interesting to me to see someone literally from across the world. I I know he's still in the northern hemisphere, so he's not exactly at the antipodes of myself, but he's pretty much on the other side of the frickin' planet, and he saw basically the same issues I see. So I thought that was fascinating, and that's why I think that you know, I think we have large numbers of people who see things basically the same for the exact same reasons. And then you have a large number of people who see things totally different. What was it, Timcast today? I was listening. He said they were playing poker. I think it was in the local casino. But anyhow, Tim Pool was playing poker with a bunch of other people or whatever. And things got talking about politics. And somebody brought, who are you voting for and everything. And when one of these people found that most of them were voting for Trump, he just started going off on a rant about Trump never says anything true. And then he says, name one good thing that Trump ever did in foreign policy. Tim says, Abraham Accords, and he says the guy just kept ranting without hardly even pausing. And then Pool's like, excuse me, you asked me one thing. I answered you. What's your response there? It just shows you how emotional this whole situation has gotten, and that's typically where things get difficult. I am not sure not only what's going to happen directly, but what the second and third order effects are. I'm concerned that when you have a system, a society, a country, whatever you want to call it, that relies on, that requires this just-in-time inventory and supply chains and things like this, that any kind of significant disruptions could potentially have some serious second and third order effects. So that's, I suspect that almost everybody here is relatively prepared. They don't feel that things are just going to go smoothly for the next few years. Is there anyone here, and I know that, but is there anyone here who thinks that things are probably going to go reasonably well over the next few years? I just don't see it. There's also some recent reports, and I sent a link to Honey Bunny and several other people and such about the migrants coming through the Darien Gap, and specifically how there seems to be a separate stream of Chinese nationals that are running a parallel route with their own housing and things like this along the way that appears to be being blended in to the major thing. It's a significant number of Chinese. And the reporters were basically questioning what's going on here. China's a pretty good country. Why that, in terms of economic opportunity, why are you're getting so many economic migrants from China, almost entirely military age males, and that don't want to talk, are essentially hostile. They don't, just leave me alone, this sort of stuff. And so that was concerning too. So I don't know. I've never seen anything like this in the past. And we'll have to see how things work out. My brother, who lives in Yuma, said the trucker caravan came through. He didn't leave the house at that particular time, So he didn't see anything with his eyes, but the reporting was pretty minimal. And the reports are at this time that the caravans that have showed up in Texas are relatively small in number. Nothing nearly like what they were promoting or who somebody was promoting. But I suspect a lot of that has to do with just wanting to keep your head down right now. I mean, we saw what happened to the Canadian truckers. We saw what happened to the January 6 people. And I think a lot of people on the political outs right now don't want to put their head up above the parapet until they're ready to shoot. So I don't know. Got me very concerned. So, oh, that's basically how I see it, and that's what I'm preparing for. Aside from that, things are going pretty smooth. You know, I'm very, very happy to be with someone that loves me and cares about me and will try to protect me at all costs. And, um, you know, where are you at, Polka Face? Where's my water? Oh my goodness. Water, water. I'm dying of thirst. Oh. Punditry is thirsty work. Massachusetts, huh? Well, Eva's oldest son is in Massachusetts too right now.
He works for the tea.
Are you hearing much about any problems like with the downtown? Or, we hear stuff from New York and Chicago. Any reports of anything in Boston, little one?
Not really.
Not really? Okay. I was wondering. Honey Bunny, I will say this, okay? If Eva is ever in Boston and we have the time to go around and stuff, and you want a tour of how this place where this country was founded, it's an amazing opportunity. Eva grew up in Boston. She knows everything. Well, not everything about it, but everything a tourist would want to know. And it's an amazing concentration of history. You're standing here in it's like a church balcony, and we're overlooking the site of the Boston Massacre. Yeah. And wasn't that where the Declaration of Independence was? Faneuil Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was first read aloud, things like this. And I understand, Honey Bunny. As I said, if you ever have a chance and want to. But yeah, it was amazing to see how much history is crammed into such a small geographic area. I mean, we were just walking and we easily covered a half a dozen locations that you read about in your history books. I agree with that too, Honey Bunny. No disagreement. I'm not a big city person in general. I like art. I'd love to go see the Hermitage in St. Petersburg. But even I have also agreed that if we're at some stupid art museum sometime and some idiot environmentalists start trying to throw soup or something on an old painting, we're just going to have to pound them into the ground like a tent stake, Now, that brings up a good question, Cutthroat. I don't think a non-citizen can stake a mining claim. I do not know if a foreign company can stake a mining claim. I think they would have to incorporate in the United States, because I know companies can own mining claims. We got what is that? Golden sunlight down here. Yeah, Poker Face says I was in Boston today. It's full of them. Chinese, huh?
Oh yeah, well Boston always had a flourishing Chinatown when I was a kid, but I'm pretty sure there's more of them now than there were then.
Yeah, I'm sure you could get American citizens that would stake the claims and do something. I just don't know what the procedure is. Hold them in trust. Okay, that makes sense. I don't think a foreign national can legally stake a claim.
Not that I.
But as Goldstream
last time.
says, all you got to do is find a U.S. citizen
Yeah.
that'll, be the owner of record, and they don't do anything except get money, So that would make sense. Because I mean, after all, big mining companies are not U.S. citizens, so they might have a U.S. corporation that can do stuff too. Simply not clear on that one. But yeah, it's it is a very interesting situation. And you approved of them too. Let's see. Looking. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what's going on right now. It's not going to last long. This is an unstable situation. What it transforms into, I don't know. But it's not going to stay the same. That's for sure. Ooh, now that would be an idea, honey bunny. Although, if you tried to scam the Chi-Coms by paper staking sort of thing or whatever, they might just kill you. But yeah, say I think that the precious metals are a good investment right now. I don't know what would be the best thing if you had essentially a lot of cash equivalent. I think precious metals are pretty safe. I don't think they're going to go down much. And they have a lot of upside potential. Money in the bank, I think, would be highly risky. You can diversify into investment, including foreign investments, where you hold foreign stocks or bonds or this or that or the other. Also, when it comes to real estate, we got a situation where it looks like we may have a hyperinflationary time ahead of us. So you got a couple of possibilities there when it comes to real estate that make a lot of sense. Number one, if you can lock in a reasonable interest rate, you can buy the real estate outright. I mean, either you can buy it outright or buy it for minimum money down and hold it with the intention that as inflation goes up and the money keeps getting inflated, let's say at 10% a year, if your interest rate is 5% a year, you're essentially making money holding on to it. And so that either that or just buy it outright, hold it for the security of it. For example, if say my youngest daughter wanted to buy a piece of property up here in Montana that had kind of investment opportunity. Now, say she took money out of the bank and just bought the property lock, stock, and barrel. Okay. It's not likely to go down in value if it's basically real estate. But the other thing she could do is she could buy it with minimal down and a low interest rate, and then hope inflation is going to just do that. You see housing and land values falling around you right now. That would not surprise me, honey bunny. And I think that that's going to happen, which is why real estate investments, I think right now, are riskier than just precious metal. One of the ways you can deal with times like this is to be nimble and accurate. Now, it's a tough thing to be accurate. For example, my brother tried stock trading several years ago, just flipping stocks and stuff. And he found out he could do it on paper, but as soon as he had actual money in the market, he made his decisions differently and he lost money that way. Okay. And so there's not a large percentage of people who can inform themselves thoroughly enough and be disciplined enough to make those moves where you go from one asset class to another. Okay, right now I'm going to invest in precious metals, and then when the housing market collapses, then I'm going to buy real estate with my precious metals. That sort of thing. If you play that game right, you can make a lot of money. If you're good at playing markets, if you're skilled enough, then you can, a lot of times, seeing what's going to go up is a lot murkier than seeing what's going to go down. And you can short stocks or investments with much greater accuracy than you can buy them, for the long haul. So those are some of the strategies that can work over time. Now, of course, if you don't have much in the way of resources, you don't have to worry about all that stuff. Okay. We have to concern ourselves with being nimble with reality. When stuff happens, can we adapt to whatever happens? And that would become more and more important as things get more and more crazy. If you have a situation where law and order is failing, the economy is failing, things like that, then it's going to be really important to be able to be nimble physically. Food, shelter, things like that. And assuming you can do those things, you're going to be better off than a lot of people. I hope that the situation doesn't become so bad that a lot of people don't suffer and especially don't die. But I'm not sanguine that that's not going to happen. I suspect that there's a reasonable chance that we're going to have a lot of suffering and death in this country, which would be hugely unfortunate as it's completely unnecessary, with proper policies and motivations running around out there. But I definitely don't rule that out. So, be prepared, be nimble, things like that. Precious metals are probably a good investment right now. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say about anything? Absolutely, poker face. However, it does happen in other countries. As long as the government isn't trying to run roughshod over everything, which is entirely possible, but when it comes to like bandits and things like this, there are ways. Okay. It's unfortunate we had to do that, but you have security. Secrecy, really important. So don't be blabbing your stuff to just everyone on the planet. Okay. Not a good idea. If I didn't have a YouTube channel where I'm trying to help other people and stuff, I wouldn't say near as much as I have. Okay. but yeah, information is power. Don't give away power unless you're getting something in return for it. Okay. Um, Work on your capabilities. Okay. Um, is there, I mean, Eva and I are going to the gym, and Eva's doing great, by the way. Okay. Eva is doing great. She's, I'm surprised at how well her aerobic capacity is going. Yeah, I'm really, really happy because she's doing fantastic. There's been times I've worn out before she does. Now, I'm usually doing a higher intensity, but that's not the way it used to work, even with the higher intensity. Um, and so things like that. If you got medical treatment that, like, well, I've always wondered if I should have that knee surgery or whatever. You know, is there a better time if you need it? Exactly, honey bunny. Yeah, that was in Arizona. They were friends of Jeff Williams, I think. Okay, and I hope they caught the perpetrators, and as far as I'm concerned, put them to death. You know, I got very little patience for that kind of behavior. Um, and that's another thing that will tend to change too. If the situation becomes fraught with danger, when people don't have enough resources, when people are hungry, that's when the justice system gets a little informal, you know. Um, our brother knew a guy that was on a deer hunting trip in Mexico many years ago, and he said they were, going hunting one morning, and they came across some poachers that had I guess it would be rustlers. They'd killed a cow and were butchering it. Says the ranch hands just strung them up right there. There was a, what do you mean trial? They're here cutting up a cow. They know it's not theirs. It's ours. They just hung them up. And he said, um, are you going to cut them down? I said, nah, their families will come get them, you know? And so, say, things can get extremely, let's say, direct and informal. Be aware, be ready for that. Okay. Um, there are times when it's not good to be too nice. There's times when it's a really bad idea to piss people off, you know? So, say, just remember that. Um, these kind of times become very, very different from what we're used to living in. Very different indeed. So, be adaptable, be mentally prepared to do the correct action at the time under the circumstances. And say, be aware that those may change. You know, um, just you know, keep your wits about you, understand the environment you're in, and try and deal with it the best you can. Well, Honey Bunny says, where I live, it's really dangerous to piss off the natives. Could be. On the other hand, Honey Bunny, if you didn't do anything fucked up and you just wound up in the wrong spot or whatever, are you in any danger? I mean, like if you knock on the door, I'm lost, my car broke down, you know, where I can get some help. Um, and are they just, are you in danger like that? That one girl that got shot, was it a couple months ago? And what was it, Texas? I'm not sure where it was. But anyhow, they were looking for a party at a house or something like that. They pull into this driveway, and then they realize that it was the wrong house. And as they're trying to, back out and stuff, guy just starts shooting at them, And so, he's in jail for, for murder right now, which I think is appropriate. He was in no danger. They were still in their car. Got no reason to be shooting at him. On the other hand, if you've had a major natural disaster, you step onto the property, that can be a capital crime. Talked to someone who was in Wichita Falls, Kansas, many years ago when they had a tornado run through, and he said, "Yeah, rule was simple. You step onto someone's property, they can shoot you. Just that simple. You're walking down the sidewalk, you step on their lawn, it's now a free fire zone." And I think he said something like 28 people got shot in 2 weeks, primarily for trespassing. So say, just be aware. The rules can change. Don't be the last one to figure it out. Okay? That's not a good thing to be. What are those registered mines in general for? It says zinc, Arkansas, so I presume lead, zinc, silver, stuff like that. So anyhow, that's about it. Can't think of anything else at the moment. Does anyone have any comments or anything they want to discuss? Mainly lead, zinc, silver, copper iron. Yeah. A lot of zinc has a lot of silver too, huh? Cool. You betcha, Lance. And say, if you have questions or whatever, specific or general, just show up on the live stream and ask. See that guy right above you there, Rock Butcher? That guy is a professional exploration geochemist who's been working in the business for decades. So we have some pretty good expertise here from time to time. I'm sure Eva would like that.
What?
Some of the old mines report as much as 200 to 300 ounces per ton silver.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Rock says, all the guys on my team down in Arizona were packing. Night shift set up a shooting range just to let people know we had guns. Yep. Sometimes that's the sort of thing. Like I saw once, somebody had a silhouette target taped to their front window, which had a couple of nice groups in it. Ah, but you make it up well, Rock. You don't have all the answers, Rock, but you got more than I do on certain subjects. Yep. Well, are they actual machine guns or are they just fully automatic assault rifles and stuff? That's the question. You got machine guns, submachine guns, and automatic assault rifles. Yeah, Rock. I know. Some of my claims were that close too. So yeah, it gets it gets interesting. That's what I mean by the rules are not the same. Rock's been to a lot of different countries, and they have a lot of different rules. And you better not break some of those rules. You may not come back. Actual machine guns, it's legal, or it's not that hard, either way. Ma Deuce, man, the ammunition for those is outrageous. For linked ammo, what are you paying now? About $5 a round? Something like that? BAR, and that's not too bad. Yep. Mount Baker has crushers. Keene has some crushers. I know they got some Chinese jaw crushers out there. I won't ask where the money came from, honey bunny. That's one of the rules. Oh. $7.75 a round, huh? Jeez. Oh, that gets real pricey real quick. Absolutely. And I'm whining at about $1 a round for 10 millimeter. Oh. Okay. Okay, that'll work, honey bunny. Connections are better than money. Anything else? Any new subjects? Any questions? Anything? Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that, but this is just a pistol. $12 a round, huh? Oh, goodness, Rock. Hey, when's the next time you're thinking of heading back down there? Just curious. I presume you're waiting for a bunch of results and analysis now and then figure out what the next stage is going to be. Couple of weeks? Okay, the weather won't be too bad then. Yeah, once it gets around June 1st, it's going to start getting toasty. Oh, anything else, anybody? Yeah, I'm going to have to wait a while for that, honey bunny. Well, I think I'll call it a night then. Yeah, good for collaring your hole. Exactly, honey bunny. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Oh. All righty. I think I'll call it a night here. I'm getting a little tired. So go ahead, honey bunny. Put it on there. Goodness. So many things to do, so little time. It just annoys the crap out of me that they've screwed things up so badly. You take care, Rock. Thank you, honey bunny. Happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.